The moment Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo were cast in Wicked, the old superstition slithered back to life. The idea that this franchise, born in the shadow of the Wizard of Oz, carried a curse. It was a superstition rooted in the legacy of Judy Garland's suffering, in the fires, the accidents, the burns, the silencing. A history that didn't just stain Hollywood folklore, it defined it. But when Grande and Erivo stepped into the storm, the narrative twisted into something new, mutating into a modern version of the same old curse. This time it wasn't about pyrotechnics or studio chaos, it was about them. Their friendship, their loyalty, their womanhood. A rumor disguised as concern, are they feuding, became the updated ghost story for a generation that feeds on speculation more than fact. And that rumor spread, with the kind of hunger only the internet can nourish. What no one outside that set understood was the fragile condition both women were in when the world started watching. Ariana wasn't stepping onto set as a pop princess, with perfect eyeliner and a curated spotlight. She arrived quietly wounded, carrying the weight of a divorce the press dissected like vultures over a carcass. Every detail of her personal life was turned into a national debate. Her intentions, her heart, her morality. She walked into the role of Glinda at a moment when she was expected to smile while falling apart from the inside. Glinda's perfectionism suddenly didn't feel like acting, it felt like survival. And that pressure followed her everywhere, into the rehearsal rooms, into the sound booths, into every scene where her voice trembled between character and confession. Cynthia Erivo stepped onto that same set carrying a different kind of burden, one that belonged to her blood, her identity, her legacy, as a black woman leading a blockbuster built on a character defined by being misunderstood, isolated, and judged at first glance. Erivo entered the role of Elphaba with a weight that didn't fade when the cameras stopped. Her final audition left her physically sick, burning with a 104-degree fever, forcing her body to break before the role even began. The expectations placed upon her by audiences, by critics, by her own history, created a pressure that mirrored Elphaba's own story so closely it almost felt scripted. She wasn't fighting a curse, she was fighting an entire industry's worth of doubt, the kind that insists women like her must always prove themselves twice, work twice as hard, bleed twice as much. This was the truth behind the glossy posters and pastel marketing. Two women standing on opposite sides of the same storm, both exhausted, both vulnerable, both too emotionally raw to be anyone's villain. And instead of competing, they built a world inside the world, a small private bubble where the noise of tabloids and trolls couldn't reach them. That bubble didn't happen because they wanted to silence rumors. It happened because they needed each other to get through the day. While the internet tried to pit them against each other, they were learning how to breathe again, how to trust their bodies, how to feel safe. For Ariana, it was Cynthia shielding her from the crowd at the Singapore incident, her arm forming a barrier between a fragile healing woman and a fan who crossed a line. For Cynthia, it was Ariana sitting with her through the exhaustion, through the ache of carrying a role that demanded everything. Their tattoos sealed what the tabloids refused to see. For good, inked into their skin, not as matching PR stunts, but as a private promise born in the dark. Not a celebration of a movie, an acknowledgement of survival. A reminder that whatever curse people believed in belonged to a different generation, a different Hollywood. This set was not haunted, it was a sanctuary, a place where two women saved each other in ways no headline could capture. The rumor didn't need evidence. It didn't need logic. It didn't even need a moment of friction. All it needed was two women occupying the same spotlight, a formula Hollywood has weaponized for decades. From the moment Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo were announced as Glinda and Elphaba, the myth wrote itself. One blonde, one not. One pop icon, one acclaimed theater titan, one dismissed as frivolous, the other upheld as serious. The perfect storm for a rivalry that was never real. The internet fed it like oxygen to a fire. It was easier for the public to believe that two powerful women must be in conflict than to imagine them as allies. Every red carpet glance became a cold shoulder. Every separate interview became a subtle dig. Every quiet day on social media became proof they unfollowed each other. The machine created a narrative that satisfied its own hunger for drama. But the truth lived in the quiet spaces between takes, in the dressing rooms, in the moments where cameras were not allowed. On the Wicked set, Ariana and Cynthia were not two stars orbiting separately. They were two women holding each other upright. Their relationship didn't develop under spotlights or through scripted PR moments. It evolved in whispered conversations during long rehearsals, in shared exhaustion, on cold sound stages, in the small touches and soft reassurances that exist only between people who recognize pain in each other. The set wasn't glamorous, it wasn't polished. It was a battlefield of emotion, and every day the two of them walked into it armorless. Cynthia carried the weight of Elphaba's green paint, a physical transformation that trapped her for hours under hot lights, unable to move freely, breathe freely, or exist without scrutiny. The paint itself became a metaphor, thick, suffocating, isolating. It wasn't just a role, it was a reminder of every moment in her life when she'd been judged by appearance before ability. Ariana didn't treat her like a spectacle. She treated her like a human being, whose body and spirit were tired from carrying the burden of representation. Ariana's wounds were invisible, but deeper. Hers were emotional fractures, hidden beneath the soft tones of Glinda's gowns, beneath the perfect curls and the gentle voice. She wasn't running from a husband, she was running from the public's conviction that they were entitled to the story of her private heartbreak. But Cynthia didn't ask for explanations. She didn't pry into the chaos Ariana was trying to outrun. She stood beside her, listened when needed, stayed silent when the silence felt safer, and defended her without hesitation when the world crossed a line. The infamous Singapore incident proved that the feud narrative was a farce. When an aggressive fan lunged toward Ariana during a performance, it wasn't security, it wasn't staff, it was Cynthia who moved first. She didn't calculate the optics, she didn't think about tabloids. She reacted with instinct, shielding Ariana with her own body, grounding her with a steady hand, whispering words meant for one person only. And that moment revealed the truth. You do not protect someone you dislike. You do not shield a rival with your bare hands. Later, when Cynthia discussed it on the Today Show, her words cut through the noise. She didn't dramatize it. She didn't elevate herself. She simply acknowledged what had already been seen. Their bond was real, and the world's insistence on turning their sisterhood into rivalry was exhausting. The Vanity Fair lie detector test became the quiet burial of the rumor. Hooked to wires and machines, with no room for performance, both women laughed at the idea of a feud. Their ease with each other wasn't rehearsed. It was the kind of ease that forms only after surviving something together. The test didn't expose deception. It exposed how deeply the public underestimated them. The tattoos were the final blow to the myth. Matching ink etched into their skin, for good. Not as branding, not as marketing, but as a message to each other. A message that didn't need to be posted, explained, or defended. A message that said, "I'm grateful for you. You changed me. You saw me." Their relationship didn't destroy the curse, it replaced it. Where Judy Garland once endured silence and suffering, where actresses before them carried pain alone, Ariana and Cynthia created a new history, a history of protection, honesty, and shared survival. And yet, even as they tried to live inside this truth, the world insisted on rewriting their story. The myth of the curse, the myth of the feud, the myth that women must always tear each other apart. They all persisted like stubborn ghosts. But the deeper truth, the one the public never fully captured, was that these women were rewriting not just a franchise narrative, but their own lives. They stepped into the world of Wicked wounded, lonely, misunderstood, and emerged not cursed but connected. The rumor was never about them. It was about the world's inability to believe in powerful women choosing each other instead of competing. And yet they chose each other anyway. The story of Wicked was never just about witches or magic or destiny. At its core, it has always been a story about the cost of being misunderstood. And in many ways, Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo walked into that legacy, carrying their own wounds. Wounds carved by public scrutiny, heartbreak, pressure, and the crushing expectation to be perfect, grateful, unshakable. But what happened between them, what unfolded quietly behind the noise, became bigger than a movie, bigger than Hollywood gossip, bigger than any curse the tabloids tried to resurrect. It became a blueprint for how two women, shaped by entirely different worlds, chose to anchor one another when the ground beneath them shifted. Ariana entered the film, hollowed by a divorce she didn't want, judged by strangers who felt entitled to her private life, and bruised by the relentless scrutiny that comes with being a global pop star. Despite the glitter that surrounds her name, she walked onto the set not as the confident Glinda the public adored, but as a woman rebuilding herself piece by fragile piece. Cynthia saw that, not the headlines, not the caricature, but the real person underneath. She understood pain with depth because she carried her own. She knew what it meant to work while grieving, to smile while exhausted, to be exceptional because the world demands it, not because you always feel it. Cynthia stepped into Wicked with the weight of Elphaba pressed into her bones. The isolation, the expectations, the pressure to be perfect because the world refuses to accept anything less from a black woman in a historic role. She was not simply acting misunderstood, she was living it. And Ariana, who understood what it meant to be dissected by the public, didn't look at her as the strong figure she played. She looked at her as a human being who needed someone to sit beside her without judgment, without performance, without agenda. Together, they created something the original Wizard of Oz cast never had: safety. And that is the legacy no one expected. Not the scandal, not the feud, not the curse, but the sanctuary. They carved out a new history, where the curse of Wicked dissolved not because the myth stopped, but because the women involved refused to let the past define their present. They refused to repeat cycles of pain. They refused to let the industry pit them against each other. They refused to let tabloids decide which version of them was most profitable. Their friendship, quiet, fierce, protective, became the antidote to everything the world tried to impose on them. The matching tattoos weren't symbolism for fans. They were a private contract. You changed me. You stood by me. You made me better. Their interviews weren't PR campaigns. They were two women telling the world in their own ways, there is no feud because there is no enemy here. The Singapore incident wasn't drama. It was instinct, the purest form of loyalty emerging in a split second. And their silence during the height of tabloid speculation wasn't guilt. It was a statement. Our truth does not need defending, because in the end, the real curse of Hollywood has never been superstition. It has always been the way it pits women against each other to keep them from realizing their collective power. Ariana and Cynthia didn't break the curse by disproving it. They broke it by refusing to participate in the system that created it. They walked into the world of Wicked as strangers, two women navigating their own storms, both vulnerable, both wary. They walked out as sisters, bound not by optics or marketing, but by survival and tenderness. And that is the part the headlines will never fully capture. The quiet revolution inside their bond. In a story that the world wanted to shape into rivalry, they reshaped it into something far more radical: friendship in its rawest form. A friendship forged not through ease, but through pain. Not through convenience, but through necessity. Not for publicity, but for healing. This is not the tale of a curse. This is not the tale of a feud. This is the tale of two women who lived the story of Wicked so deeply that it changed them not as actresses, but as humans. Glinda and Elphaba may have started as characters on a page, but Ariana and Cynthia turned them into real women, complex, wounded, resilient, and in doing so, rewrote the legacy of one of Hollywood's most mythologized productions. Not cursed, not feuding, not broken. Just two women who found each other at the exact moment they both needed someone to stand beside them, and that, in the end, is the most powerful magic of all.